I signed the report at 3:17 p.m. because that's when my supervisor usually walked past my cubicle, coffee in his left hand, phone in his right, already looking beyond me. The timestamp mattered more than the numbers. That's what I tell myself now. The water plant sits 12 miles outside town, low and flat against a field of scrub grass that never quite grows right. Concrete basins, thick pipes wrapped in insulation the color of old teeth. Even in winter, the place sweats. I wore the same steel-toed boots I'd worn for years and the county jacket that always smelled faintly of chlorine, no matter how often I washed it. My job title was Environmental Health Specialist 2. It sounded technical enough that people assumed precision. Mostly it meant collecting samples, logging temperatures, running field tests, and then confirming everything later at my desk with calibrated equipment kept in a locked cabinet no one audited anymore. I'd been with the county for 9 years, long enough to know which rules mattered and which ones were just there so forms looked serious, long enough to have a mortgage that reset last spring and a son who needed braces before high school. When the funding cuts came down, my supervisor, Mark, called me into his office and closed the door halfway. He always did that, never fully private, never fully public. "We're not laying anyone off," he said, tapping a pen against a yellow legal pad, "but we are tightening expectations." I asked what that meant. He smiled, the kind people use when they think they're being reasonable. "It means we don't go looking for problems we can't afford to fix," he said. On Tuesday, the raw water turbidity spiked. Raw water turbidity is what the water looks like before we make it look safe. Clouded just enough that the light doesn't pass cleanly through. The faint milkiness you only see when you hold it up and realize the clarity is working a little too hard. Not dramatically, it wasn't bad. Not enough to set off alarms or force a shutdown. Just enough that I noticed it without having to squint. The handheld meter hesitated before settling, the digits flickering as if deciding what story to tell me. I frowned and rinsed the probe again, recalibrated the machine, and took a second reading. The number came back the same. I felt a small, involuntary tightening in my chest, the kind you get when you miss a step on the stairs but don't fall. "That's odd," I said, out loud, because no one else was there. I wrote the number down anyway. Pencil first, then pen. Habit drilled into me during my first year, back when mistakes felt like something you could still fix. At the plant, Linda from operations walked with me along the tanks. Her hard hat sat tilted back, and her voice echoed off the concrete walls. "Everything still tasting fine?" she asked. "That's not really how it works," I said. She laughed. "You know what I meant," she said, already moving ahead of me. I stopped once, just for a moment, and looked down into one of the basins. The water surface was smooth, clean, reflective, nothing you could point to. Back at my desk, I ran the samples through the bench tests. Coliform screen, negative. Chlorine residual, within range, though it hugged the lower limit like it was tired. Their turbidity, once corrected, still sat just above where the report template auto-filled green instead of yellow. I stared at the screen longer than necessary. The amber cell pulsed faintly, like it wanted attention. At 2:58 p.m., Mark stopped at my desk. "Everything good out here?" he said. "It's mostly fine," I said. He nodded. "Mostly is fine," he said. "Mostly is what we need." When he walked away, I minimized the window even though he wasn't looking, and then I reopened it. I clicked into the flagged cell and typed a number that differed by 2 decimal places. The color changed to green. At 3:17 p.m., I signed my name. That night, my son complained the water tasted like pennies. He said it with his mouth twisted, dramatic, 13 years old and bored. "Run it a second time," I said, not looking up from my laptop. We sniffed another glass. "It's fine. You're just being weird." I nodded and told myself the same thing. The next morning, there was an email from the state lab asking for confirmation on our last submission, just a routine cross-check. My stomach dropped. It was the kind of thing that happened all the time, but I instantly thought back to yesterday. I typed out a reply, deleted it, and typed another. Confirmed as reported, I finally wrote and hit send before I could reread it. On Thursday, the elementary school closed its drinking fountains. A notice went out about plumbing maintenance. I read it on my phone in the parking lot before work. The language was careful, bloodless. At the plant, Linda avoided my eyes. "They're flushing the lines," she said when I asked, "just precautionary." "Did they see anything?" I asked. She shrugged. "Define anything," she said. That afternoon, I reran the numbers on my own, unofficially. The values hovered just below thresholds, never crossing, always close enough that my jaw ached from clenching without realizing it. "This doesn't mean anything," I said to an empty office. On Friday, a woman called the department and asked to speak to whoever tested her neighborhood's water. Her voice was calm, almost apologetic. "My daughter's been sick," she said, "probably unrelated, but I just wanted to be sure." I told her the water met all the safety standards. I heard myself say it, steady and practiced. "So there's no chance at all, right?" she asked. "Well, there are always variables," I said carefully, "but based on our data, there's no indication of contamination." There was a pause. "Okay," she said, "thank you." After I hung up, I opened my field notebook. The original pencil mark was still there, faint but legible, a number that didn't match the report. I closed the notebook and locked it in my bottom drawer. Over the weekend, the town Facebook group filled with similar posts. Stomach bugs, rashes, metallic tastes. People argued in the comments. Somebody blamed a new restaurant. Somebody else said stress did weird things to the body. On Monday, Mark called another meeting. He didn't close the door this time. "State's satisfied," he said. "Good work keeping things calm." I nodded. My hands were cold. That night, my son asked if he could brush his teeth with bottled water. "Don't be ridiculous," I snapped. He looked at me for a moment longer than necessary, then said, "Okay," and went upstairs. I stood at the sink and turned on the tap. The water ran clear, like it always did. I thought about reopening the report, about submitting an addendum, about what that would trigger. Investigations, headlines, questions about whether the numbers changed after the signature. I thought about my mortgage statement sitting unopened on the counter. By Tuesday, the water tasted normal again, or maybe I'd stopped noticing. I still have the notebook. I still know exactly where the pencil mark is. Sometimes I imagine pulling it out, placing it on someone's desk and saying this is when it started. Sometimes I imagine the timestamp wouldn't matter anymore. The last report I filed was clean, all green, signed and dated, 3:17 p.m.